peer Baroness Kishwa-Faulkner. Now, the Foreign Office has announced that Boris Johnson will visit Russia in the coming weeks. In the meeting, the Foreign Secretary is expected to hold talks with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. Mr Johnson has stated that Britain's policy towards Russia is to engage but beware. Discussions will focus on the UK-Russia relationship, as well as current international issues, including Syria and Ukraine. Boris Johnson will be the first British minister to travel to Moscow for an official visit in more than 5 years. Well, earlier, our political correspondent Ellie Price told me it could be an awkward visit.
Over the last few months, we've had Boris Johnson suggesting that Moscow has been guilty of war crimes in Syria. He suggested that there's no case for relaxing sanctions over Ukraine. And, of course, the suggestion that Russians have been up to dirty tricks with regards to cyber attacks. The Russian embassy have countered that by suggesting that Boris Johnson wants to reopen the Cold War. So it would seem much to talk about during this visit. We're told that during this visit, Boris Johnson will be robust and that there is no suggestion that this is cozying up to Moscow, but that it might be in Britain's national interest to engage with Russia, as you said there. Not to engage, but beware. So plenty to talk about. There's another context here, of course, isn't there, as well? We're waiting to hear what Donald Trump wants to do. There's suggestions that Donald Trump would like to engage with Russia over the issue of counter-terrorism. The whole world is waiting to find out exactly how that relationship's likely to pan out. So perhaps not that surprising that Britain would like to re-engage with Russia and re-engage with its own relationship.
And it is significant, isn't it, because this is the first visit by a senior British politician in 5 years. The
first visit by a foreign secretary in 5 years. I think that gives you some kind of measure of exactly how strained these tensions have been. Of course, Theresa May and Vladimir Putin have been in the same room talking about all sorts of things at different summits. But, yeah, I think it gives you some sort of sense of just how difficult these things can be. So probably about time, you could say.
Ellie Price speaking to me a little bit earlier. Now let's get more on that news that 4 arrests have been made in connection with the escape of the convicted murderer Sean peer Baroness Kishwa-Faulkner. Now, the Foreign Office has announced that Boris Johnson will visit Russia in the coming weeks. In the meeting, the Foreign Secretary is expected to hold talks with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. Mr Johnson has stated